Live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 59. This is Roy Kessel for Sports Philanthropy Network, and we're happy to be here in New Orleans with Rawle Andrews. And Rawle is going to be part of Lee Steinberg's Brain Health Summit on Saturday. We're very excited to learn more about your work and what you're doing and what brought you here.
Well, Roy, thank you so much and your organization for having us. The American Psychiatric Association Foundation is the charitable arm of the APA, the world's largest psychiatric medical society. And so, what our mission and vision is to promote the mental health and well being of individuals and communities where we live, learn, work, worship, and play. And play is what brings us to Super Bowl.
Well, the play part is so important, but it really raises the question, right? Everywhere we go, the number one thing we hear from athletes right now is mental health. And it doesn't matter what level, youth, high school, college, pro, former pro, that's the number one issue people are struggling with. So talk a little bit about what some of your initiatives include.
Certainly. So we believe there is no health without mental health. And for too long, we have separated physical health, nutrition, and so forth, athletic ability, and not really focused on what is my mind telling me? What is my mind doing? And one of the reasons why we were honored to be selected to be in the Brain Health Summit is because we're working on a stop, drop, and roll, Roy, for mental health. And we're doing that with athletes, we're doing that with entertainers, we're doing that with school teachers. It's called Notice, Talk, Act. And our Notice, Talk, Act platform is how do we, as non doctors, recognize signs and symptoms of distress? How do when we talk about it so that we're having a regular conversation, not anything sensational? And then when we get to action, which is really what our biggest barrier is, what are the tools, tips, and resources that are available to me to get me some help if I need it?
Well, you talk about, the stop, drop, and roll, and now you're going to do the notice, talk, and act, right? And I think one of the struggles is historically, right, especially men in men's sports,
Right.
are reluctant to open up.
Sure.
I don't want to show weakness. I don't want anybody to know that I'm suffering. People are going to think I'm weak. I can't make it. So, how do we break that stigma essentially to give people the space to open up and let somebody understand how to help them?
Well, we have to start humanizing our heroes and sheroes. For too long, we've held them up on a pedestal, and we don't care if they're having bad days. We just want them to perform. And we don't understand that there's a lot that goes on coming to and from the arena. And so we launched a campaign called Mental Health Care Works. And your audience can go to mentalhealthcareworks.org. In the first year, we had almost 500 million impressions of people reaching out. But then we needed to come out of the air game, Roy, and come down to a ground game. And that's when we launched the Play Initiative. And we started bringing in mostly retired athletes and some college athletes. We started working with the defensive line. We started when that's Solomon Thomas's group. Then we started working with Athletes for Hope, founded by Muhammad Ali, Mia Hamm, Andre Agassi, and listen to their stories and the journeys that they've taken. And it has been remarkable that if we listen to our heroes and heroes, they will tell us what they're feeling and they will tell us they need help. But if we just say, you know what, I paid $100, popcorn costs too much, score the touchdown, kick the field goal, I don't care how you feel.
Well, and that's one of the things I think that you talk about, right? It's historically sports has been a very much a we'll call it a mercenary
Sure.
environment, right? When
At all
like your
costs.
problems are my problem. I need you to win for my team because my ego's all wrapped up in how my team does,
Right.
right? But we want to now start understanding like if I want you to be alive long enough to, from our perspective as Sports Philanthropy Network, you can influence a community far longer than you can influence the scores on the field. And so we want you to be in a good frame of mind. We want you to have a good level of success so that you can help change lives and transform communities.
And we see some of these same parallels about the resistance to coming forward with our military, armed forces community, first responders, because they believe, and we've taught them to believe, that self care is selfish, when really self care is self worth. And if I'm not worth it, I'm not going to be worth anything to you.
Well, and that's, I think, a two-way street, right? Because there's times where athletes feel externally, right? Nobody appreciates this. They don't know how many hours I put into practice. They don't know how hard I train to put this out on the field. But the other side that we see is this mindset that I call hanging on the edge of the cliff. You look around this room, right? Every single day this week, we see some of the greats of the game, Hall of Fame NFL players, right? The elites in the Hall of Fame, right? But we see a lot of average players that are making a big difference in their communities.
Right. Well, one of the things we've also had to do is digitize a lot of our offerings because we find now, particularly with our Notice Talk Act platform, if you can't do it on your phone, you're probably not going to do it. And the world needs to know. And you're helping us to psychiatrists, physician psychiatrists do more telehealth appointments than any other medical specialty in the world. So you don't have to go to a clinic or an office or go down a dark hall. You can be in the comfort of your own locker room, your hyper chamber, whatever it is, and you can have your appointment and you could start getting on a journey to healing because our goal is to lead and live whole and well. Got to be whole and well.
Well, and that whole person environment, right, is something new because, as we said before, people's entire personality, their whole brand for themselves was wrapped up in just their athletic performance. And now, and we see a lot of athletes here this week on Radio Row that are involved in other businesses, involved in other ventures because your athletic career,
It's short.
three-year average in the NFL approximately, even if you have a great career, 10, right? So you're still in your early 30s and you've got to look at what am I going to do for the next 40, 50 years of my life. And so it's great to see people being proactive and taking that vision as what can I do as a whole and complete human being?
Right.
Because that's something that's really different and meaningful. And one of the things that I want to talk about is you said, it's all got to be on the phone. It's all got to be on an app. So
Right.
tell us how that works.
So one of the things that we do is through our networks, we show folks what it's like to deal with a psychiatrist. Because if you go to urgent care or emergency room or internal medicine appointment, you know what to do. You fill out your little forms, you do your thing. Most people have no idea what therapy is about, what it's like. So we have to demystify that you're not going to Arkham, right? You're just talking to a doctor. The other challenge when it comes to mental well-being, a lot of times there's homework outside appointments. So I need you to journal. I need you to use your playlist more strategically, those kind of things on your Spotify or what have you. And people sometimes don't do the homework. And so there could be setbacks. But if you're willing to work it, knowing that there are going to be good days, they're going to be bad days, and they're going to be blah days. And that's just the journey that we're on.
Well, I think one of the things that's really important, you talked about the homework, right? You talked about demystifying it. One of the things that's always been a challenge that we've seen is people understand what it takes for physical training and conditioning.
Right.
I understand how to hit the gym, do weights. I understand speed training.
Mhm.
But what I don't understand, most people don't understand, is how do I build that mental performance? How do I build that resilience?
Right.
And those are skills and that's training that exists, but people aren't normally involved with that, right? We see a lot of coaches yelling at somebody and they say, "Hey, you got to be smarter than that. You got to be stronger than that. Come on."
Right.
And yet, like, you wouldn't scream at a kid and say you need to be faster, right? You would train them how to be faster. So why aren't we training people to be more resilient?
Well, I don't think we have taken the time to talk to the leaders of leaders about what they're supposed to be doing. And that was one of the drivers behind Notice Talk Act. So when we do Notice Talk Act at work, we start with the C suite. And then we go down to the division presidents and vice presidents, all the way cascading down to the entry level employee. We think the leagues and the clubs can utilize the same methodology if they would employ this system. The other challenge, but opportunity that we have, is if you take stock of changing our guidebooks to playbooks. And I think if we use in a language that appeals to the consumer or to the client or to the patient, it's a little easier to lean in instead of backing away.
Well, it is, and I want to give you your card that you filled out here before we started and have you come and put it up on our wall of philanthropy right down here. We're filling up here. We're going to need another banner.
It is an honor to make it to the wall.
So we appreciate you taking the time and sharing your insight with us. We look forward to hearing your presentation at Lee's Brain Health Summit. Thank you for making the time for
Thank you
us.
so much, Roy.
And for all of our viewers and listeners, thank you for joining us live from Radio Row in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59. This is Roy Kessel signing off for Sports Philanthropy Network. Please remember to live generously.